good, people? It's your boy Icarus Gray.
And it's your homeboy Wordplay TJ.
And this is the No Rhyme or Reason podcast, where we talk about everything.
Everything for no reason at all. And we're live.
Yeah. What's good, people? It's your boy Icarus Gray.
And it's your homeboy Sad Play TJ.
And this is a No Rhyme or Reason podcast, where we talk about everything.
Everything for no reason at all.
Man.
We back.
We back. Y'all was wilding this weekend.
Be more specific.
Y'all was out here protesting this weekend.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about who's going to fix Trump.
Not.
And I know this is a little bit of a divergence from our normal content, right? We usually talk about hip hop and things of that nature, but if you rewind about 10 years ago, we started this podcast by talking about Trump, and so
Yeah.
I think we've been hesitant to continue to do that or to pick that back up again. This time around, it's time.
Yeah, it's big time.
It's due time.
Past time.
And we have some things that are actually relevant to talk about, right? So the April 5th, which is this past Saturday's hands off protest. And how many black folks have been opting out of that protest? That's an important conversation that we want to have. We want to talk about bad tariff math, which apparently, come on, man. And what is likely to be the greatest wealth transfer in the history of the United States. And we've already had quite a few wealth transfers within our history already. This is probably going to be the next one. So we want to talk about all three of those things. We are sponsored by Ground News, so that link is going to be down in the description. We're going to pause at some point and tell you more about them. And from here, let's start with the April 5th hands-off protest. So if folks don't know, there are protests all across the nation at Capitol buildings, at local buildings and things of that nature. But the main protest is in D.C., and it's meant to tell Donald Trump to basically keep your hands off of everything that we want, right? Hands off Social Security, hands off education, hands off a bunch of different things.
There's some things that are absent.
There are some things that are absent. So let's start there, right? So like based off of the hands-off platform, right? What's missing from that platform according to you?
I don't see like hands-off segregation or hands-off DEI. I don't see hands-off Black Lives, or I don't see anything that is, has to involve the brown-skinned people.
Yeah. Which I'll read some of their reasons for mobilizing right now. So they're dismantling Social Security and Medicare, forcing seniors and disabled Americans to jump through hoops, right? So that impacts us in some ways. There's some overlaps. They're handing trillions to billionaires while forcing the rest of us to pay higher prices for food, rent, and healthcare. That impacts us, but it's not direct. It's indirect.
Yeah.
They're gutting protections for working people. So payday lenders, banks, credit card companies can scam Americans with zero consequences. There was some recent legislation that was overturned about overdraft fees, something like that.
Student loan stuff has also been hitting us.
Yeah, that's a thing that's to do, right? The Department of Education and how they deal with student loans, that's being handed over to the Small Business Administration. They're assaulting our communities and our rights, right? Targeting veterans, kids, seniors, farmers, immigrants, transgender people, and political opponents. But I feel like that last paragraph is missing people of color, black folks specifically. And it also doesn't talk about, like you said, how they're dismantling like civil rights and all types of other ways to fight against discrimination and inequities in our country. And so ultimately what we've gotten to is black folks have decided to opt out of this protest this weekend, and I don't blame them.
I don't either. It's like, what are you supposed to do? We spent his last term telling you he don't care about people. We spent the time during Joe Biden's run that he don't care about people. And we've also spent that time throughout all of it saying that both political parties have to be more grounded. And no one listened.
Yeah. Nobody not only just... Nobody listened, but on top of that, nobody absorbed the actual information that was being delivered to them. He told you that he was going to do these tariffs. Mm-hmm. He told you that he was going to go after government inefficiencies.
He told you he was going to go after education.
They told you in Project 2025, which he denied that he even knew about. They had the plan laid out.
Which doesn't make any sense. Like, let's be for real. If you don't think that somebody with Project 2025 in mind is not on the like pay scale of Donald Trump, then you are very ignorant and would not have like talked to him about it.
Yeah.
Or at least said something to him about it because they felt like he is somebody that's aligned with those things. You're an idiot. And like, no offense to you, but or not, you're not an idiot. You're ignorant of the spaces that Donald Trump is clearly in. And everything, like, you can go down the list. You can find all the stuff, whether it's Roe v. Wade in terms of the overturning and stuff of that, in terms of everything that's going on in the House. The fact that the affirmative action has been removed. Segregation is technically legal again. Mm-hmm. If they want to do whatever it is they want to do with that, which we'll see the ramifications of very shortly, I guarantee you. And no one said anything. But when we get to the tariffs and the eggs and all these prices not coming down, when life for you financially, not socially, but financially gets hard, is now when we want to say, hey, stop protesting, or hey, hands off.
Yeah, there are a few reports out there that say that Russell Vought, the author of Project 2025, is pretty wealthy.
Yeah.
At least one report I'm reading is at least $10 million in assets and wealth.
To get it that much passed, and it not just be not a memo, but what's the...
A manifesto.
Thank you. For it not being a manifesto, like, it still got passed around in information, and the information doesn't change, which means you've seen it. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's too large scale of a plan and a thing, because it started when Clinton was in office. Mm-hmm. So if we're talking all the way back then, there's no way that somebody on the street, when he was just, Trump Tower, Trump Hotel, you're fired Trump, ain't been approached by somebody.
Well, this body has existed since the late 70s.
Yeah. So overall, like, to get to the actual point about like why we wouldn't go out and protest or whatever, right? When peaceful protests, especially with this administration, have happened, we've seen the response. When Colin Kaepernick and all of them were taking knees, he called them SOBs. Mm-hmm. And did a lot of disrespectful things. Talked to Jerry Jones about what would happen if people were protesting Show up to the games, was talking crazy about all the people who didn't show up to the White House, i.e. the Warriors, I think the Eagles during their first run, and some other teams that just didn't want to deal with him, and he disrespected them.
Right.
When it's an option. I don't know if you guys remember the dinner that the March Madness NCAA kids get to go on. Like, maybe y'all remember they went and he served them McDonald's.
I want to take it away from modern history. And the reason why I want to kind of go back in time is because I want to start backwards and go forward, right? So since slavery, black folks have been fighting for their rights.
Yes.
You have the anti-slavery and abolishment movement, which is a part of that. You have participation within the Civil War, where black folks sacrificed their lives for the Union. You have Reconstruction, where black folks were undermined and not provided an opportunity to move forward. You have
the Civil Rights Movement, or Jim Crow Civil Rights Movement after Reconstruction.
Right. Jim Crow Civil Rights Movement. And even forward still, right, you have the war on drugs. You have the 90s that happened to black folks in Million Man March. Right. We have George Floyd and continued protests throughout history.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but we keep standing up. Y'all keep knocking us down. Bro. Yeah, you keep knocking us down. And then now that it's impacting you, you're asking us to stand up again.
And it doesn't make sense when we explain this from the beginning. And even to go back to the George Floyd point, right? When we're thinking about our protest, starting from Trayvon Martin, right? So I remember when that happened, and the only protest that people did in regards to that was wear hoodies, and wear the black hoodies, and you get Skittles or whatever. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but there were people who went out on Halloween in hoodies with blood on it and Skittles.
Yeah.
As a joke. Because they, again, vilified these kids, and we're continuously vilified when we're peaceful.
Right.
So let alone being the scapegoat in this situation when everything that is black, whether it's HBCU funding, the DEI breakdown in terms of what that actually means for how sororities and fraternities are able to do their scholarships. You can't. Right.
If you attack the Department of Education, who's gonna feel it the most?
We are, because we're already on a small thread off to the side, and understand this.
Right. Because higher education feels it the most. When you eliminate the states, right?
Yeah.
The states primarily take care of K-12 education. The states also take care of the education of adults.
Yeah.
But the federal government provides a lot of that funding. So because the funding models that are going to be disrupted at higher education, there are a lot of wealthy schools that can take care of themselves. They have trust and endowments and all these other things.
Boosters and so many different things.
But what happens to HBCUs, who we just learned in the news that a lot of these HBCUs have been underfunded by their states, like in Tennessee. And the states have been withholding money from HBCUs purposefully. And Biden's Biden's White House had to intervene in that. And the one thing that pisses me off the most is that 90 million people decided to stay home because they were like, I don't like any of these candidates. And I'm sorry, this isn't the lesser of two evils conversation. This is who's going to dismantle our democracy and who's not. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, like, I know you care about Gaza. I know you care about
Palestine. And
not just Palestine, but like some other things.
Just
right?
the world in that sense in terms of people suffering.
Some reasons why people didn't go out is because they didn't agree with Kamala's stance on Gaza.
Yeah.
Some reasons people didn't go out is because they claimed that they didn't know that Kamala was actually for some things like lowering grocery prices. They claimed that they didn't know what she stood for. But I'm sorry, like if you can type in the website of your favorite thing,
your artist
or the latest concert that's going to happen, if you can type in TikTok.com and scroll through TikTok all day, you have time to go read her platform.
Or read the platform of somebody that you want. Or 90 million people, right?
And I'm sorry, like, I keep interrupting you.
No, you can.
Read the platform and then tell me which one is better. Which one do you want to live under?
Or tell me, like, if you don't like both, you can fund somebody. Like, it's 90 million. Like, if everybody did $1 for the 90 million that didn't vote, you could have picked a candidate that you wanted and funded said candidate.
True.
Like, and it not been a burden on nobody in terms of whatever it is that you wanted to do.
So here's the metaphor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody said hands off when it comes to the election.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell me hands off when it comes to this protest now.
No. Don't tell me to, like, stand up and go for your rights when we told you that he does not care about you. We told you up front. And because, again, black voices are never heard in warning. And the one black voice you didn't want to listen to was Kamala Harris, by the way. Yeah. Like, and not only does that, to me, say what America feels about black women in earnest.
1,000%.
Because we allowed him to do the whole, well, you're not from here game again that he did with Obama, only y'all let it stick this time.
Right. Couldn't get a name right. Couldn't bother, right?
Like, you even saw, like, the thing that made me so mad about the debates, and I mentioned debates because we're talking about the voting aspects. Y'all let J.D. Vance slide with everything. Like, even with, what was her, the vice president for her? I can't even think of his name because it was so, like...
Tim Walz?
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. Tim Walz spent the time saying every time, like, we're okay with working together with things that we actually care about. Mm-hmm. They kept saying it, even though I know the other side didn't mean it, clearly. And it's like, y'all just let that stuff go over your head. The same way y'all let all of the people during the year that Trump get in office not say anything about a platform. The same way that we're doing now, and just say Obamacare. Yeah, those are the only thing they ran on.
Yeah, so I really believe that no human being has an excuse for opting out and then blaming us when we opt out of helping you in this fight.
Yeah,
I'm good. You see what I'm saying? Like, how can so 90 million people can come back and say, we're going to go out and protest. We're going to go out and fight back when we didn't have to have this fight to begin with.
We had to have a fight about semantics with y'all because Black Lives Matter chapped y'all's asses so much that we had to start Blue Lives Matter. We had to start All Lives Matter. We had to start all of these things because you didn't understand how systematically you show that I don't matter. And immediately, with all the deportations and everything else against people who were not taking jobs that you wanted in the first place,
right?
You didn't think he was talking about you, people who voted for him and then got deported.
Yeah.
And so we end up in this place where all of these ramifications, and we're going to transition to the tariffs because it's clear that we're saying we're not the ones to fix Trump because this is y'all's problem now. Like, we're going to do what we can and what we've always done in survival mode, because even with the us not doing anything, right? I still get a little weary about that. And I only get weary about it because I'm like, Black Wall Street wasn't doing.
I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna stop donating to the ACLU.
Oh yeah, same.
I'm not gonna stop my political campaigning. Right, like I'm stepping out to on Monday. I'm going to the Capitol building to talk to legislators. Mm-hmm. Not in D.C., but in Washington State. I'm continuing to be outspoken, about things that are happening, but I'm not going to do that in a way that endangers my life because everybody else chose to pick the. They chose to instead of choosing Kamala Harris, you chose to opt out.
You chose to choose, like, for all of y'all that had the Sleepy Joe comments, you chose the other old man that is just as senile and was like, this is better.
Well, I think we're having two conversations here when we're talking about people choosing, right?
Well,
I'm talking about people choosing to not participate. You're talking about people choosing to vote for him.
Well, I'm also choosing about, like, this is what you allowed by not voting. Because you were saying all these different things because you felt disenfranchised and you didn't like the choices that you had. You didn't like the choice of Sleepy Joe because you didn't like what it was that he was doing. And then you sit out because you, quote unquote, don't like these choices, only to end up in the same spot but worse than what you thought Joe Biden was doing. Is more so what I mean by that in terms of them not voting. And it's like...
But there's a lot of people that would have voted for Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. Which is the weirdest part about this equation. Like, do you not realize that she was vice president this entire time?
No, because they
do you not realize that she voted on bills that needed a tiebreaker because that's the vice president's job is to be the tiebreaker in the Senate?
No, because for the first time in America, I don't think they even thought of who the vice president was. And again, the disrespect to black women in that regard. Because any other time, when Joe Biden was on side Obama, when, you think about, dang, you know what I just not realized? I don't know who Bill Clinton's vice president was off the top of my head.
Al Gore.
It was? Mm-hmm. In my head, I thought that was right, but it didn't feel right. Anyway, but the point more so being, I think...
He lost to George Bush Jr.
But the things that we keep sweeping under the rug, right? Because it's out of sight, out of mind. Kamala wasn't...
Kamala.
Oh, good gosh. Bro. Kamala. Ugh.
I couldn't let that slide.
I ran too fast.
Yeah.
Miss Harris.
Oh my gosh.
But the things that we let go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't pay attention to a lot of things that were going on. We paid more attention to him falling up the stairs, falling off bikes, and everything else. So there was no attention given to what she was actually doing, which is why when Trump started talking about all of the things that she was trying to do, people just believed it.
Yeah, they also said that she didn't play the new media game, but I saw her on a lot of new media.
Mm-hmm. But
she's on TikTok videos, YouTube videos, podcast, radio interviews. She didn't do Joe Rogan, which is a neither here nor there, right? They call it a scheduling conflict, but in my opinion, if there's all these other platforms, like why is Joe Rogan the one that's going to convince you? You know what I mean? And we know his audience, right?
Yeah,
like
that's why.
How is, if she's not quote unquote coherent in all these other mediums, why would she be more coherent on Joe Rogan's podcast?
Because again,
all of a sudden,
what we said earlier about representation, right? Representation matters. And now you're realizing that the person you feel is supposed to represent you doesn't. And you would have thought that this person, because Joe Rogan is a mouthpiece for a lot of those people, they think that if he went on there, he gets to spew his rhetoric or however he wants to ask the questions. And therefore, it makes it more real for you. Because it doesn't really matter where she went. Y'all were already, choosing what it was you want to choose.
It's a bias, right?
Yeah.
It's a bias. You're going to filter out all the other things that you're exposed to.
Yeah.
Even if you're not looking for them, even if they show up to you, you're going to be like, don't want to hear it. Turn off.
Yeah.
Not listening.
Not at all.
Not paying attention.
No.
But if she sits with Joe Rogan, all of a sudden my ears are perked up.
Yes.
Like that makes zero sense to me.
It should, because you are an intellectual. But for people who, we live in the podcast era where if they don't say it on your podcast, that's the only information that you're getting.
Yeah.
Thank God that we have Jon Stewart back around, because I didn't know how much we needed him.
Well, my beef, right?
Yeah.
Is that I don't believe in being an intellectual versus being ignorant. I don't want to give adults excuses for being ignorant.
I don't either.
And it's what I mean by that is, like, it's fine not to know something, but it is not okay to be willfully ignorant. You choose not to know something. I don't know what her platform she stands for when it's a Google search away. You could walk into your house and Google search who was the president in 1943 because you randomly want to know that information, but you can't Google search her platform in 2024.
Because for a lot of people, I think politics feel to them how religion feels. So people get mad, no matter what religion you choose, about the things that your religion asks you to do happily, right? So you have to put in time to read the Quran, to read the Bible, to read all of these different things to actually understand what it is that you are, quote unquote, believing in. But then it requires you to do something. When people get faced with, I have to do something, they don't want to do it.
Yeah, but I still don't find that to be an excuse. And the reason why I don't find it to be an excuse, because you can do far more for something far less meaningful.
Yeah.
And then...
But it's less meaningful and it's less work.
And then you blame... what I'm saying is, like, for football games, for football seasons, you can track every player on your favorite team. And it has absolutely zero consequence to your real life and your everyday living outside of...
Don't tell them that.
I don't care. I'm making a point right now. Like, it has zero impact on your actual life, whether or not the Philadelphia Eagles win or don't win.
Zero.
It's an emotional impact, right? If you're emotionally connected to it. But it's not going to raise your grocery prices if the Philadelphia Eagles win. You see what I'm saying? And so what is raising your grocery prices, and I think this is where we should transition, is these tariffs. And and so when it comes to, like, being intellectually lazy or just lazy in general, you're going to blame a president for the things that happen in your life, but not blame yourself for when you could have picked somebody that has less impact. That's what I'm pissed about.
Yeah, you should be. But, wool over their eyes. They're not going to see that because it requires them to say that I made a mistake and there's not that much self-awareness in America.
Right. So that's why I'm opting out. So let's move on to tariffs.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to say. Fight me, bro. I was
over your Switch?
Yes. You knew where I was going. Listen, there are other things like the gas prices and all this stuff going up. I was going to adjust. I'm going to work. Whatever I got to work. I might not buy eggs for another 5-6 months. Cool. Here's my problem now. Because,
they just announced the Switch 2.
Announced the Switch 2 on April 2nd.
And then,
the
same day.
On the same day. Because they were trying to anticipate tariffs, had moved some things to production in Vietnam so we could, be able to still get the prices that they need. And now, because of the tariffs, they've had to remove pre-orders. We don't know when. We don't know how much. And that's my peace, bro. My peace is my games and the things that I've grown to be an adult, and I get to make my choices. My choice is normally gaming stuff because that's the kind of kid I was. And these tariffs that make no sense on any level, that are not done by good math, good people, good understanding, that is literally, and we'll get to the wealth transfer later, but it's based off nothing but the fact that this dude is literally just trying to get money for other people.
Yeah. So on your point about the Switch 2, right? Switch 2 came out. It was announced that it was going to be $449. Mm-hmm. And now we don't know, but the last Switch was manufactured in China. Mm-hmm. They moved away from China, like you said, to Vietnam. And now the tariff on Vietnam is what percent?
I believe, let's see here. It was 67%, if I'm not mistaken. Why is it not an alphabetical?
Command F or something like that.
Yeah, it's 67%.
67%.
Yeah, it's 67%. The bad math of all of this is so stupid because it does not encounter anything that makes actual sense.
Yeah. So economists are coming out and they're saying that the math for these reciprocal tariffs aren't even based off of the percentage that they charge us for stuff. They're based off of the difference between how much stuff we sell to them versus how much they sell to us. Mm-hmm. Right? So they subtract those two values and then they divide it by the total amount of things that we take in from that country. And that math is overly complicated for us to do on this podcast, but ultimately it's not the right equation for this. Yeah. And if you're going to reciprocate on a tariff or on the difference between currencies and things of that nature, you need to look at what they're charging us to send to them and import to their country, and maybe even just equalize that, right? Even then, that math would make more sense than what the math that they're doing right now.
And it also doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of the fact that we, the people, still have to face the brunt of whatever it is. Because it doesn't change, it doesn't lead to a point. So in making these tariffs, right, unless you're saying, hey, you people are charging us, whoever you are, too much for whatever, we don't want you to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. Cool. That's a conversation. Where we are now is we're just going to up one, which just affects every consumer and doesn't push anything forward.
Well, yeah. So the people that do this for a living, economists, tariffs in the short term with a plan to bring back production to America, it could work, right? Mm-hmm. But in Trump's last term, he bankrupted farmers because of tariffs that he put on certain products or certain imports. And then had to go bail farmers out. So we already know that it doesn't work based off of that theory. And here's current math, right? Current day problems. If you expect tariffs to bring manufacturing back to America, even then, how much is that product going to cost? Let's say we're talking about the auto industry, which is full of union workers, United Auto Workers, UAW. So you bring, let's say, a manufacturing plant from Canada, we bring it back to the United States.
Right.
Cool. We bring it back to Detroit, where Detroit needs some revenue, right? Detroit used to be the biggest for manufacturing vehicles, and Detroit was very wealthy because of this. You're gonna pay today's prices for that labor to put that car together, for the steel that goes into that car, for the plastics that go into that car, for the chips that go into that car, for the tires, the rubber, so the all of the liquids and everything that goes into manufacturing that vehicle. If we brought all of that back to the United States, all of that would cost way more than what it costs right now to manufacture a vehicle somewhere else.
Yep. And it's still going to cost less. And what do you think these companies are going to do? The same thing they did during his first term, which is not bring back jobs to America. Because he made that promise and it didn't happen.
You can't bring back jobs to America and expect for those jobs to produce a product that's going to cost less than it does if it came from China.
Because the money's different. The economy is different. What
they pay workers is different.
Yeah, the conditions of living and everything else. And I think that's what we never... the cost of living is never factored into a lot of these things. Hence why we end up taking the brunt of like gas prices during the summer versus in the winter, because people just get to choose when they want more money, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And being in this situation, like I said, I really am furious about this Switch 2 thing, but I'm furious about it because it's like, okay, manufacturers, whether it's China or whatever, all the different things that outside income brings, there's a lot of export stuff that we do that is very good, that has helped people. Arkansas at one point was one of the leading exporters of rice to China. And that's like something that was good. I don't think we had to give them or export like so many millions of different things, which is kind of what the breakdown of, if you know more about tariffs and how they actually work and why they don't have to match the same, equates to. And we just end up in this frustrating situation where it's like, what is the end of it? What is the cost? Like, stuff was supposed to go down. How does he explain to you how the costs and the prices go down by all of this stuff that he's doing? I don't think we've heard a plan. We've heard rumblings of a plan. There's etchings of a plan.
Concepts of
a plan. And we just haven't seen said plan outside of screw everybody but us.
Well, the plan is...
But us mean people.
To continue to screw over the individuals that pay the most in taxes. Continue to screw over the people that have lost their jobs over years because manufacturing has been exported to other countries. The plan is to transfer all of the wealth that the middle class has currently over to wealthier people. To raise our taxes in order to lower theirs. Because a tariff is a tax. A tariff is a tax on the consumer. And what people didn't want to hear during Kamala Harris's run was that very phrase. A tariff is a tax on the consumer. They said it simply. right? We get a lot of flack for being like, uppity, like kind of using quote unquote $2 words, right? They said a tariff is a tax on the consumer, and people didn't believe it.
Because people still don't believe Tea Party stuff. They forgot what the Tea Party was about. They forgot what taxation without representation is. Like, this shows more and more what this administration is doing and what went on during like No Child Left Behind and other things that is not allowing you to have the simple understandings of the government system that you exist in. Because we're here. Like that, those are the simple stuff. The simple things that they said are things you learned or should have learned.
But yeah.
And we're just, here's the thing that I want you to explain to them, or the people, because this is the bigger issue that I think we have, right? The wealth transfer that is about to happen, given all these things that are going on, is going to be monumental. And there are very limiting ways for you to even position yourself to be one of the people that the wealth is transferred to. Because you are blocked out in so many different ways. So just because we're transitioning, because the tariffs suck, it sucks. This is what y'all asked for. It is what it is. Because groceries ain't going to get cheaper no time soon. This is what you chose 2 times. But the wealth transfer is something that I think that we can at least look out for and maybe try to position ourselves something.
No, we can't position ourselves into it. And so I'm glad that you're throwing it back to me like, wait.
Wait, whoa.
Stop it, Aubrey.
Whoa.
I'm glad that you segued. Because we're already in the middle of it. It's already too late. And this is the reason why, back to our first point, the April 5th hands-off protest, this is your job to fix. You are the only ones that can tell your cousins, your brothers, your husbands, your relatives, your grandpa, your grandma,
your co-workers, your pastors, your BFFs,
that you made and they made a mistake by voting for Donald Trump. And now everybody else is going to have to go fix it. You have to have those conversations, because I can't go have those conversations with your with your relatives. The reason why I can't have those conversations is because when I start to have those conversations, they're called divisive. When I start to have those conversations, they're called DEI. When I start to have those conversations, they're talking about, well, it ain't my fault. I wasn't alive back then. Well, you're alive now. When I start to have those conversations, they call folks like me woke. And then they say it's a problem. But I'm sorry, if I'm woke, you were asleep and you were asleep at the wheel, and now you've crashed this car into a ditch, and you're gonna have to get it out. Sorry, not sorry. So now I'm gonna move on to the wealth transfer.
That's good,
right? Because it's already underway. So the first thing we gotta recognize is, and I'm probably gonna ask you some questions, so it's like a little bit of a conversation,
okay?
Right. So when it comes to taxes, right, and we live in the state of Washington, so this is a great example for the nation. We don't have a state income tax. We have a federal income taxes, but my brother, what are some other ways that I can pay taxes in Washington State? Name some things that you got to pay for that we probably didn't have to pay for back home at the same percentage.
Groceries, even before groceries just as in general, like anything you buy up here, you are paying a premium for that counteracts or makes null and void the the minimum wage that is different from your state. So if it's like,
you don't have to go that deep.
But
Groceries equals sales tax, which is 10% in Washington State, right? So if I go to the grocery store and a millionaire goes to the grocery store, who's going to feel that impact more?
Definitely me. Because you ain't bought your groceries and anyway. The millionaire.
I mean, there is the pain of actually going, but like, you know what I mean? For the wallet, I'm paying a bigger percentage of taxes, sales taxes, has the word in it, than a millionaire person is paying a percentage of their income that month.
Yeah.
Right.
And even the things you would, do to kind of counteract that. Like, so say, like the egg thing, which is a big conversation. Eggs will be $3.25 or something like that for like a dozen or more. Or actually, no, $3.25 would be about almost like 18, because you could get a dozen for like $1.25 or almost $2 not very long ago. Whereas now, if I go to the store, you're looking at $12 to $16 for 12 eggs. You can't afford that,
and you're paying upwards to $1.20 to $1.60.
Yeah,
for that same amount of eggs, right?
Yeah.
So here's where I want to keep going on the impact to consumers, right? So now these tariffs come into place, right? Where do pineapples grow?
Tropical islands, South American places, because California can't produce as many as y'all think they can. Exactly.
Right? So we're importing things that just kind of a staple fruit, so to speak, right? This is a fruit that a lot of people enjoy. Kids enjoy during their lunch, right? Kids or adults enjoy it for their beverages. You know what I mean? People have it for a snack. But now that pineapple is going to come from South America, and it's going to have an additional tax on it. Because those individuals that are growing that pineapple, we have to pay for it when it comes to the port. We pay that. And what businesses are going to not be able to afford to import those pineapples anymore?
And what infrastructure?
Wait. Start with the question. With what businesses have to pay that import tax?
All the places that you shop at. So whether it's Target, whether it's Walmart, whether it's your grocery outlets, whether it's your community markets, if they are not buying stuff locally from somebody, which some of them can't afford to do in that way, they still got to pay, because like you'll go to places, you want Doritos, you want a Coke, you want a Pepsi or all these different things. Those are companies that are importing, whether it's the metals for their cans, whether it's the plastics, like they still have to pay somewhere. So even with these homegrown places, there's going to be an increase.
I'm just trying to keep us on the train track.
Yeah. Well, I'm on. Chugga.
So I used to work in logistics, right?
Yes, you did.
And so I would import things like Dyson vacuums, iRobot vacuums from places like Taiwan, Vietnam, tools from China and things of that nature, right? I'd bring all of that in from the port, and we'd have, you get a bill whenever that comes to the port, and the truck arrives, and then it goes out to the distribution centers, and then it goes out to the stores, blah, 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 blah. Right. Consumers, like I said, are going to have to pay that price. Now, if consumers are paying more in taxes, and they're trying to lower taxes for wealthy people, and consumers are the majority of the ones that are paying sales tax, right? What happens to that wealthy person's tax bill at the end of the year?
Well, on top of it being lower, all of their investments and stuff go up because we had to continue buying. We can continue buying everything at the prices that they are.
Exactly, right? We're just feeding them money two ways.
They own the company and they have stocks.
Right. Not only are we paying more taxes than this person and their tax burden is lowered, now we're feeding them more money because we still have to go out and buy groceries.
Like, even if you didn't want to,
and somebody owns your favorite snack. It's probably a monopoly, by the way. It's probably one company that owns a bunch of your favorite snacks. But
yeah, whether it's Nabisco or I can't think of
Mondelez.
What's the M&M one? M&M and
Mars.
Yeah, so that's M&M, Three Musketeers, Skittles, Starburst are all under them.
How did you get all candy?
Oh, because we just went to Costco business. I fool with y'all, Costco. Y'all ain't pull back y'all stuff. But yeah.
Anyway,
sponsor us.
But that's the thing. So that's also a wealth transfer.
Yeah.
Right. The last wealth transfer is the impact to stocks. What's happened to the market right now?
Crashing on down.
Right. The last report I read was I think this past Friday, and the Dow dropped by, I think it was 2,000 points or something like that.
Okay. That's nuts.
It evaporated billions, if not trillions of dollars from people's funds. And guess whose funds are backed by the market? Your grandma's retirement, her 401k, probably. They want to cut her
own investments.
They want to cut her Social Security benefits. They ended paper checks. There was an executive order signed this past week that ended paper checks for Social Security. Right? What if your grandma doesn't really know how to deal with direct deposit? She's just gonna miss out on her Social Security checks for a few weeks or a few months until she gets that set up.
Yeah, man. And with the way y'all have America set up in terms of our families, it would be very ignorant to assume that she just has somebody that can go and do that for her.
Right. What about Medicare?
Gone, ripped to shreds. While people, the same wealthy people that you think are affected by these 2,000 points, they're affected in terms of frustration.
Right. And what happens when all of those social benefits go away? What? Now, on top of your grocery bills going higher, now you got to pay more in healthcare. Now you got to pay more in your basic standard of living.
Yep.
Your house price is going down because it's tied to the market too.
And you wasn't getting the money for your houses anyway.
I just think it's we really got to understand what's happening here. And the majority of the people in this country are white folks, by the way. So they're doing it to you. Half of our adults don't pay very much in taxes. They pay sales tax at that. Probably 3% of their wealth goes to taxes.
3%.
The upper half of all taxpayers pay 90% of taxes.
And we're sitting in this place where your money is being transferred to make people more money. Where a stock market crashes is a frustration for them, but all they're going to do is buy more stocks at lower prices. Because, again, the people who run the stock market, don't let somebody fool you and think about these stock traders or whatever. Consumers run the stock market because it's whatever we buy. Right. It's all the simplicity of understanding the stock market. What are you buying?
The economy is 70-80% of what we buy, what we put into it, and if we can't afford to buy and buy goods and services,
Mhm.
what happens to the market?
The market crashes. The market does what it's doing. It's just it's going. So here's some hopeful thoughts.
I don't have any hopeful thoughts.
I have one.
What you got?
My hopeful thought is we have encountered these things similarly before in different eras of life, not to this extent. But the resiliency is this. No, I'm not stepping outside with you to do no protesting today because I didn't cause this problem. But I am, much like you, going to continue lobbying and going to the places that I need to be in and talking to the people I need to talk to, doing the things I need to do business-wise and stepping into the places I need to step into. There are ways, however small, to game the system. You have to find those out for yourself. I'm not a person that's going to be doing all this whistleblowing, yelling about it or whatever. And the reason I say that is because people are very particular about when you start telling them how to help themselves. Because there are ways. And I guarantee you, the person around you that's not panicking, that hasn't changed their disposition, that you know is not like that far off from you financially, has figured something out. And I think those are the things that we kind of have to like pay attention to, on top of voting that is going to come up here soon in certain states.
Right. Midterm elections, they're going to happen. They are going to happen.
And those are the only way you can kind of slow some stuff down.
We lost our opportunity to gain more control in the House of Representatives because we lost 2 elections in Florida.
Yep. And of all the places. Like, Florida, why do y'all, listen, y'all hate yourselves so much.
If it floated off the map,
would you care?
I might be okay with that.
I think I might.
Then you,
might be fine.
Well, I don't know if I would be okay with that, because then you wouldn't get any more Florida man does this, you know what I mean, stories, which are mildly entertaining.
Yeah, and I would feel bad for the people, the good people, not the other people, because there's a lot of them other people who, anyway.
there's some people that voted for Al Gore in Florida.
Yo, what?
Anyway. So I do have some hope.
Yeah, that was my hope.
I do have some hope.
Oh, look at this. Let's get it.
Yeah.
All right.
My hope is...
Oh, wow. I don't know what you're about to say.
That white people get so mad that their pockets are impacted that they get homeboy out of this White House as soon as possible.
Good luck with that, bruh.
That is my hope.
I can see that.
Because he came for people of color, for immigrants. Mum's the word. He came for DEI. Mum's the word. He came for... he said he's going to build a golden statue in Palestine.
He said...
He's going to make an idol of himself.
He said he was going to buy Gaza. They wasn't going to, do nothing for the people. They were going to redesign it and put American things
Here's
there.
my beef, though, right? We're not supposed to be, worshiping idols. The people that support Israel do not believe in worshiping idols. But he's going to do it. Mum's the word.
I mean, LGBTQ marriage and stuff is under attack. Mum's the word.
Well, I don't know about that. I hear some stuff. But,
I mean, I hear things, but I still feel like...
outside the community.
Because either way,
You're
I still feel like the mum's the word in terms of, us rolling up, because we're, the same people that we're kind of alluding to, those national people, if you will.
Those national people.
They don't even,
those prideful people.
Those very prideful people. As long as it's aligned with the a snippet, because not a totality, just a snippet, they gonna be mumming the word. Because then in telling you, give thoughts and prayers and stuff like that.
But I think I think mums goes to the folks that don't vote, the folks that don't participate on a regular basis. And I'm not saying that you need to be knowledgeable about everything. What I'm saying is that don't be knowledgeable about the goings on of TikTok with the chick in her car that was explaining all the stuff about her weird relationship, and you keeping up with that series, but you can't go do a Google search for what Kamala Harris believes in.
And if you're so scared, then why don't you use Ground News?
Exactly. Thank you.
Ground News is an unbiased platform that allows you to know where the leanings of the things you're searching for are and how to navigate that and find the thing or find the information that is more pertinent for you and where you are going with your life and information. Guard your information and make sure that you're not being led by the right, not being led by the left, and maybe you don't want to be led by the middle. So thank you for sponsoring us, Ground News. Make sure you use the code WPTJ.
It's check.ground.news /WPTJ.
Yeah.
And you can get 40% off.
40%. You know, with tariffs coming in, I think I might want a discount somewhere. So use Ground News. And we appreciate you guys for listening to this episode. I know this is very different from what we normally do, but there are so many times where TJ and I have to speak up against things like this.
Yeah, so I am opting in. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I'm opting in to do this. I will do this from the comfort of my own home.
You got my hands on when it comes to editing this video and putting it out.
Yeah, but we appreciate y'all. Let us know what your thoughts down in the comments. I know it's going to be all kinds of crap going down there because what these kind of conversations bring out.
Yeah.
But either way, still put that stuff down in the comments because it'll show you one of two things. One, depending upon the type of person that's in the comments, will either show that we're right, because you're just proving us right by doing what you do, or we're going to end up getting to a place where we're actually having good conversation, which is my hope.
Yeah, if you're disrespectful, you're just going to be blocked. You just won't.
Yeah.
You won't exist.
You never existed for us. But either way, we appreciate y'all for joining us. We'll be back with some more fun stuff. Hopefully somebody's going to drop a dope album or something and we don't have to,
hopefully the Switch 2 will be like, I don't know, $100.
Listen, I will become even though they are like scalper proof, I will become a scalper. Anyway.
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all. Much love. Stay safe out there, guys. Stay safe out there. Yeah, and we'll see you in the next one. I hope there's no bad news later on this week. A 1 and a 2 and a peace.